Ok, donc bonjour, bienvenue. Aujourd'hui, c'est le jeudi 3 décembre. So again, this is what we're working on right now. Finishing up, getting that objective. Ok, on va commencer avec les coups de cœur 2020. Et puis ensuite, on va passer la majorité du temps sur la lettre. On va faire un atelier de travail. So, a workshop. Un atelier, c'est un workshop ou un studio. Donc, on va travailler ensemble sur la lettre. Et puis pour demain. And very quickly, before we get started, somebody asked how to say doing cosplay, and I did follow up and ask about that. I have nerdy friends in France who were able to help me out. They just say faire du cosplay. They don't change the word. So put that in the chat. And then I also mentioned skin tones, and I meant to look them up and I hadn't done it. And so I finally did it. And so here are a few ways to express skin tones in French. So you're welcome to take a screen cap if you want, if that's something you want to know how to do. So clair, olive, très clair, brun clair. Okay, teint de peau. And then here's another one with some more options. You've got numbers that correspond to colors. If you're interested in talking about skin tone in French. Okay. And then this is tomorrow. I wanted to bring your attention to this again. So we will be having our class from 1 to 1:40 instead of our normal time, okay? So you'll be, with your first hour, you'll be going to the assembly with your first hour and having a discussion with them. So you'll still have your first hour class. It'll end a little bit early. You'll go to the assembly and then you'll spend time with that first hour class discussing the assembly, okay? And then third hour, us, so French 2, third hour, we're going to be meeting at 1 instead of our normal time. And that is tomorrow. OK, coup de cœur 2020. C'est bientôt la fin de l'année. On est au mois de décembre. Donc, tout le monde parle de ses coups de cœur de l'année. Donc, des gens parlent de ses coups de cœur. So, it's almost the end of the year. We're in December. We're in the last month of the year. And so, folks are starting to talk about their favorites for the end of the year, their wrap-up stuff, right? Donc, quel est ton artiste préféré de l'année 2020? Quel est ton artiste préféré? Mon artiste préféré, c'est... so, quel could be masculine or feminine, right? Because we don't know if it's a female artist or a male artist. It can be a singer, could be a painter, right? It doesn't have to just be a singer. It could be a singer, but it doesn't have to be. Et puis, quelle est ta série préférée? Quel est ton film préféré de l'année 2020? Donc, ma série préférée, my TV series, my favorite TV series or my favorite series, or my favorite film. Mon film préféré de 2020, c'est... So take a moment and I'll pause recording. Super. Super. OK, donc les loisirs. Donc voici la liste encore une fois. So once again, here is the list of some activities you might talk about. Not much has changed. Donc aller au cinéma, aller au restaurant, aller au musée, écouter la musique, écouter des podcasts. J'ai écouté 30 000 heures, minutes, 30 000 minutes de podcasts. I listened to, I think it was 30,000 minutes of podcasts this past year. I think that's a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Donc, j'aime écouter des podcasts. J'aime dormir, pourquoi pas. J'aime faire de l'art. So what are some things you like to do? What are some activities you like to do? J'aime dessiner, peindre, to draw, to paint. I am painting minis at the moment. I have to kind of prime these and stuff, but that's the painting that I do. So I'll be working on those tonight. Donc, dessiner, peindre, lire, j'aime écrire, etc. Faire du sport, j'aime faire du sport, j'aime danser, ou je n'aime pas danser, par exemple. Okay? And then there was faire du cosplay. Were there other ones that you'd like to see added to this list that are not on this list? Jouer au football, jouer au basket. What are some other activities you like? you want to know how to say in French. One person last class was j'aime faire du ski, to go skiing. Quelles sont d'autres expressions que tu aimerais savoir? No? No other expressions? This covers it? Okay, so again, I'd love for you to, if you want, you can take a screen cap of this. I'd love for you to take 4 or 5 of these to kind of use and to kind of practice and incorporate into your letter. Okay, donc la lettre. So I spoke with Madame Jourdain, my colleague in France who teaches English in France, and I spoke with her yesterday, and we had a lot of fun chatting and talking about how excited we are about this Pen Pal program. So many thanks to those of you who expressed interest, and you're cutting it close, but it's not too late. If you still want to be part of it, just have to let me know. We are stoked. I think it's going to be really fun. But yeah. But whether you're participating or not, you will turn in a letter. Donc ce vendredi, donc demain, vous allez rendre une lettre d'introduction en français. Par la suite, la majorité de la classe enverra la lettre à un compagnon de classe en France. I'm going to get up and turn the lights back on real quick. Okay, and so I like to use the calendar. If you want to go into the calendar, you can, to turn in your letter. So you can go on, to turn it in by 10 p.m. on Friday, se présenter, and you can click on this. And so when you're ready to turn in your letter, you'll go ahead and hit submit assignment, and it's just a text box. So you can copy and paste your letter in there. You can write it directly in there if you prefer, whatever works for you. Again, on your worksheet slides, I've given you space to write it in here. So if that's something you'd like to do, it's up to you. One thing that I would like to draw your attention to is the workshop. So I'll ask you to turn in the Google Slides worksheets. You'll submit it either as a file, so like a PDF or a PowerPoint file, or you can share it, right? So you can hit the share button right here and copy the link, and then just put that link right in here, if that's easier for you, whatever works. Because I'd like to see the work that you did, all right? And then finally, once you've done those things, once you turn in the letter and the worksheet, I am going to ask you to fill out a reflection survey. And so what this is a chance to reflect on your learning, right? To reflect on your work. So your name, so I know who's answering. And then how do you feel about your letter, right? Do you feel really confident about it? Are you turning it in feeling really good or not so confident? And I'd love for you to be honest with this, right? Like how are you doing with this? And then how much of the letter did you complete during our in-class workshops? So yesterday we started, today we're going to be doing work, and then even tomorrow we'll be spending class time working to prepare this letter. And hopefully you'll do most of the work in class. But here too, I'd love for you to be honest, like, okay, how much were you able to get done? Just estimate, right? It's not going to be exact. I'm especially proud of my work doing this during our in-class work time. So what did you do during our in-class work time that you thought was especially effective, especially helpful? And then on the other hand, what would you do differently if you had to do the project again? What are some things that you would want to do differently in your own work? Right. And I really like reflection as part of learning. I think of it as really essential to the learning process. So it's not just, okay, I'm turning this thing in and boom, 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 done, walk away, but also like, okay, well, gosh, I did this really well. I can really celebrate that. Oh, this I could have done a little better. And maybe next time we'll try to work on that. Or what worked, right? We all learn in different ways. So what are some ways that work for you? So once again, that survey, that link is right here. Okay. Donc, encore une fois, dans cette lettre, il faut saluer ton compagnon de classe, se présenter, se décrire, mentionner les activités que tu aimes faire, et puis poser au moins une question. All right, so this is that checklist in French, dire au revoir. All right, same checklist, just in English right here. All right. So I'll go ahead and pause recording, and I'd love to hear some questions. What questions do you have for me? Okay, excellent. So once again, I'm not looking for perfection. The idea is, can you be understood? You can be easily understood. You can mostly be easily understood, right? That's kind of what you're shooting for, right? So not perfection. I want to make that really clear. One person asked how many paragraphs do you have to write? It's not so much about how many paragraphs. It's more just go through that checklist and make sure you're hitting all those points. So if you go through the checklist and you hit them and then you come back and you're reading your thing and you're checking it off one more time, you're solid. You got them all. All right, so let's look at the letter, right? Let's look at the model texts. La lettre, texte modèle. So in the chat, if you would please let me know, I asked you to do this for preparation for today. What information would you expect to find in a letter introducing ourselves? In a letter somebody might write to introduce himself. How would you start the letter? How would you end the letter? And you can answer that in English, or if you want to kind of get ahead, you can answer in French. So what kind of information would you expect to find? So yeah, great ideas for what information to include. And we'll start talking about how to open and close your letter. So this, I'll let you kind of do it on your own. How would you describe them? So you can look at the letters. How would you describe them? You know, you can think about these adjectives and kind of talk about how you describe them in English, or you can kind of get a general idea from how they describe themselves and do a larger description, et cetera, et cetera. Just kind of generally, what are the ways that you see this, you would imagine this person being a person? Fabien says, je ne suis pas très dynamique. Dynamique means lively, okay? Lively. So I'm not very lively. Je ne suis pas très dynamique. I'm not very lively or like energetic necessarily, right? And then what activities they like to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and answer these questions. And if you want to, you can answer in the chat or you can speak up, but how old are they and where are they from? We kind of already said it, right? Yeah, excellent. So Pauline is from Marseille, Fabien is from Lille. And I want to draw your attention really quickly to how they said that, right? So Pauline says, je m'appelle Pauline, j'ai 15 ans et je suis de Marseille, dans le sud de la France. So she's saying, I'm from Marseille in the south of France, right? So she's giving a little bit of extra information for somebody, just in case they don't know where Marseille is. You may not know, right? So, je suis de Marseille dans le sud de la France. And then Fabien says, je viens de Lille en France. So Fabien's a little bit, gives a little bit less information, right? I'm from Lille in France. So in your letter, you might want to say something similar. You can say, je viens de, or je suis de Fitchburg, dans le Wisconsin. And you might add something in addition to that to help them understand, okay, well, where is that? Before they have to Google it. So you could say something like, je suis de Fitchburg, dans le Wisconsin, au nord de Chicago. Au nord de Chicago. Or au sud du Canada would be another way to kind of orient them a little bit. Okay, yeah. So how do they start the letter and how do they end the letter? And I'd really love to see your answers here. So how do they start it and how do they end it? That works. Okay. Yeah, bonjour and au revoir. Exactly. Okay, I think that's kind of what I was looking for. Maybe I wasn't, they're kind of tricky questions, I guess. I could have worded them better. But yeah, they start with, so Pauline, bonjour, bonjour, comma, right, is how she starts it. She says, bonjour, comma. Fabien says, salut, exclamation point. Which one do you think is less formal between bonjour and salut? Which one is less formal? Salut, salut, yeah, you got it. Salut is going to be less formal, okay? Salut is going to be a little more familiar, a little friendlier. Bonjour is not unfriendly or super formal. It's just kind of neutral, all right? Whereas salut is clearly informal. Salut, it's like, hey, hey. And then they end with, yeah, au revoir, exactly. Au revoir. Pauline says au revoir, and Fabien ends with à bientôt. À bientôt. So au revoir is going to be slightly more formal. It's kind of like bonjour, where it's more neutral slash slightly, it can be formal depending on the context. And then à bientôt is going to be a little more familiar, a little less formal. And what does à bientôt mean? Does anybody know what à bientôt means? See you soon. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Good job. Got some all-stars in the chat. All right. So à bientôt literally means until soon. All right. And so I'll put it in the chat. À bientôt. Kind of like I'll see you soon, or we'll talk soon. Okay. So à bientôt. Bientôt literally means soon. All right. Au revoir means until I see you again. So at the next time I see you, voir, again, revoir, re-see, see you a second time. So until I see you again, au revoir, again, slightly more neutral, can be formal depending on the context. And then à bientôt is see you soon. Another way you could end the letter is with bisous. Bisous is kisses. It's going to be a little less formal, right? That's kind of warm and affectionate kisses, bisous. But again, in France, it's not seen as this like affectionate thing necessarily. It's not seen as like romantic necessarily to say kisses, right? Whereas in English, if you ended your letter in kisses, it would be like, okay, it's it's kind of intimate, right? In France, they greet each other with kisses, right? So bisous. On fait la bise, on fait la bise. So they kiss each other, kind of air kisses, right? Not literally kissing, but they do air kisses. So a lot of times people will end letters or emails with bisous if it's a friend. You wouldn't want to do that in a formal context. that would not go over terribly well, right? But with a friend, or if you're trying to really communicate warmth in a message to somebody about your age, bisous works great. Okay. So there you got some options. À bientôt, au revoir, bisous, bisous. Yeah. So let's take a moment. I'll give you some time to kind of contemplate this, to kind of think on this a little bit. How might you begin your letter? What words are you going to use to begin your letter? And then what are you going to use to end your letter? Au revoir. Au revoir. Au revoir. Works. Ça roule. Au revoir. Okay. Okay. Yeah. One person asked in last class how to say it's nice to meet you. And I was really stumped because it's not something that's said super frequently in French. It's something that we say a lot in English, right? Like you meet somebody, you say, oh, nice to meet you, right? If you're trying to be really polite. It's not said as frequently in French. In French, you could say a couple things. You could say, je suis heureux, heureuse, right? If you're a girl, heureuse, de faire ta connaissance. This is pretty formal. I am happy to make your acquaintance. Right, so that's kind of formal, but it does the trick where it expresses pleasure at being able to meet somebody, right? So it's one of those things where you might end up coming off a little bit more formal, but maybe that's okay, right? Because you're communicating that eagerness to communicate. You're communicating that that joy in meeting somebody, right? So those are the kind of decisions we have to make when we're communicating with people, okay? So, je suis heureux de faire ta connaissance. Je suis heureuse de faire ta connaissance, right? That's fine. You can definitely say that. Traditionally in French classes, I know folks are taught to say enchanté. I wouldn't recommend it though. It's a little archaic. So enchanté is a good translation of nice to meet you or pleased to meet you, but it doesn't really work that much in French. In French, oftentimes when people say enchanté to a native French speaker, they'll feel a little, it sounds like something out of maybe a fairy tale or something, or oh, I'm enchanted to make your acquaintance. I am positively enchanted to meet you, right? It sounds a little extra, a little over the top, right? So I wouldn't necessarily recommend saying enchanté, but it also can't hurt in terms of you're expressing that warmth, right? So if that's something you want to express, then it's a little clumsy, but it's you're communicating, right? Which is the most important. All right. Yeah. I think a lot of times enchanté is taught because it's the easiest equivalent to nice to meet you, but again, it's not used that much in French. So yeah. Okay. So ending your letter, au revoir. Excellent. Okay. Some of you might say bisous. Yeah. Okay, so we're short on time today. This is kind of normal, it's okay. So we'll continue tomorrow to work on this. And for tomorrow, what we're gonna work on is what words do they use to talk about something they aren't or something they don't like to do, right? So if we look at the letters, there are these really helpful words that I wanna kind of bring up and we'll talk about them tomorrow. But Pauline says, je suis petite, je suis ambitieuse, sportive, et je suis assez intelligente. Pourtant, je ne suis pas très imaginative, right? So I'm these things, but I am not this. Fabienne does a similar thing. Je suis sympa, patient, intelligent, mais je ne suis pas très dynamique. But I'm not that lively, okay? So what I'd like you to do is to go ahead and do that exercise in your worksheet for tomorrow. And we'll go over that answer tomorrow in class. And then if you have extra time, you could also do this, where you're kind of mapping out each section. And what that helps us do is then it helps us think of, okay, do you want to follow a same pattern? Do you want to organize your letter in the same way? All right, so tomorrow we'll keep working on this. Go ahead and continue working on the worksheet. You can get ahead. That's totally fine. And start thinking about your own expressions. What do you want to say? How do you want to describe yourself? Okay. Once again, I spoke with Madame Jourdain, and we're really excited about pairing y'all up. She's paired everybody up now with pen pals. So we're really excited to see how it goes. Yeah. I'll stick around in case there are questions, but otherwise I will say à demain.